before I give that answer.
With the uncertainty with the school right now and the leadership problems, like, could you maybe just see them running a year with Biff Poggi and then just kicking the can down the road until next year to ultimately make that decision on who they should have with how late this is in the process to go replace Sherrone Moore?
I don't know. I'll say this though: Michigan could not be luckier to have Biff Poggi in the position that he's in. I mean, they could not be luckier. He's been there. I mean, his son was my roommate, one of the best men at my wedding. Biff has character that is as solid as gold. He has the full trust and loyalty and buy-in from the players in the locker room, from the staff. And I think like what's really important is Biff is independently wealthy. He didn't choose Michigan because of what it could do for him financially, what it could do for his ego, what it could do for his career. He doesn't need any of that. He chose Michigan because he believed and believes Michigan to be a special place, as do I still. So he has the integrity to say that with his actions to back it up. So if it is time, if they do wait, whether it's he's going to be the interim coach for the bowl game, assuming they still play, and then however long he's the interim head coach, that they are so lucky to have Biff Poggi navigate this time, because when you're in an uncertain, crazy time like this, you need leadership. But when you fire a coach, that's counterintuitive to leadership. Michigan's lucky to have Biff Poggi there.
Obviously, Jake Butt, with you being a Michigan Wolverine, that what you do with the podcasting and the Big Ten Network, you have a lot of ties still at Michigan. Did any of this, like yesterday, in terms of something going down, not necessarily, obviously, how and everything that is accused of Sherrone Moore, no one could have seen coming, but a lot of people are coming out today. Oh, well, like I heard rumblings that he was in hot water in September or a month ago. Players knew about it. A lot of people are saying that this was like the worst kept secret. Have you heard about the possibility of Sherrone Moore being let go before we got the announcement yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely whispers. But I mean, look, Zach, like the truth is like a coach having an affair is not really breaking news in sports. That's just an unfortunate and blunt truth. That alone is not, a fireable offense. I mean, that, it could be two consenting adults, but now what you've seen unfold, that has come out of left field, and some of the additional facts and then the ripple effects, then it becomes undeniable what this situation is, and it completely transforms, my perspective. So, there was only one decision to be made at this point, and that was to separate from Sherrone Moore and move on.
In terms of candidates, do you think Kalen DeBoer, who's right now at Alabama, can you see that being likely, or do you say, if they beat Oklahoma, why the heck is he going to go to Michigan?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the benefit Michigan has is they're an institution and a program that I got to imagine 99% of the candidates that they would want would pick up the phone on the other side, including Coach DeBoer. And I think the thing I'm most interested in for DeBoer, he's a phenomenal head coach, and Michigan would be lucky to have him. He's will be judged forever against Nick Saban. You will never meet those expectations. And you're seeing that unfold right now. I mean, one of the advantages Nick Saban had is, it's just the truth, Alabama used to have a resource advantage down there. Now they don't. I mean, they have a competitive NIL program, but no longer can they say that they are clearly the leader in NIL, And he's still going to be judged against the standard of Nick Saban. Some fan bases, it's been like since day one, they've wanted him gone. Since his first loss, since the Florida State game, they've wanted him gone. I fear, and I'm sure he knows this, or at least is asking the questions, is there anything I could ever do to satisfy this fan base? That's a question he's going to have to ask. And now he has the chance to be the savior at Michigan. People would welcome him with open arms. He's certainly probably the top candidate that I'm hearing, that everybody's hearing. Jed Fish is another one. Kenny Dillingham. There's some potential candidates out there that I think Michigan would benefit from.
Would Jed Fish excite you? I keep on seeing that name get thrown out there. I said Dillingham yesterday. We've had the DeBoer conversation, but would Fish excite you?
It would. I mean, I played for Jed, so I know him personally. I've worked in the conference, but I also think what people are doing is they're taking his record at Washington and saying, what do you mean? Why would you hire this guy? I like to provide the context that when DeBoer left for Alabama, that was a bare roster, a bare program. Everybody left. In comes Jed, and he's got to start from square one. But also, then Washington goes from a premier program in the Pac-12 to a tier 2, tier 3 program in the Big Ten. They're a bottom third NIL spend, maybe flirting with the midpoint NIL spend at best. So I look at it and say 8-4 this year with what they had on the offensive line in the trenches. That's pretty darn good. They were competitive with Ohio State and Michigan. And I question a lot of the candidates that Michigan fan bases are enamored with. Would any of those coaches have done better than Jed, given what he had out there at Washington right now? I think he's a builder with what he did at Arizona. That program was broke and completely lost, and he's trending in the right direction. Washington just signed their best recruiting class of all time. So I think a lot of people are overlooking the quality of coach Jed is just from looking at like the gross win and loss total. And I think that would be a mistake to do that to Jed.
Jesse Minter, he could be on the verge of getting an NFL head coaching job. I know there's a show cause still in place. There's some discrepancies on when that actually does run out. Do you think he's someone that is going to be of interest of Michigan with the ties?
That's an example of one I think would be a little too close to the sign stealing situation. You know, Jed worked for Harbaugh, but there was none of this. There was no off the field issues at that point. Minter, especially with the show cause, and you got the videos and pictures of him interacting with Stallions on the sideline, whatever you think that means. I do think like the Harbaugh family and those close to Harbaugh that appreciate Harbaugh. Like they saw the way this unfolded and they don't appreciate the way Jim Harbaugh was treated. Some people have even said, go get John Harbaugh, go get the next Harbaugh. I don't think the Harbaugh family would want anything to do with the University of Michigan. I would have loved Mike McDonald. I mean, that guy, and clearly you see him in Seattle right now, but they're not prying him away from Seattle. I can see why you would say, well, then go get Minter. I'm not as sure that would happen. But he's a great coach. Coach.
Obviously, you're hurt, clearly, with what happened yesterday. And you talked about the Michigan man stuff and all that, how it kind of doesn't mean much as it once did with what has transpired. Just wondering, you being someone that played for the program, if you could talk to whoever the new head coach is, when they announce it a week from now, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, what do you want them to understand what you're looking for as someone that played for the university as the next head football coach at Michigan?
I think it's one of those things like, you can't sell someone on that. Like, you know what I mean? No one told Nick Saban to be Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like this is the responsibility of Ward and the regents and the hiring committee to go find someone with like unshakable, trustworthy character that also has a good football mind. But what I would tell them is what they already know. Like, you have an opportunity, and like this is one of the best jobs in college or pro. You're going to have the resources you need. Any goal that you would have as a coach, you will be supported in a way by the University of Michigan to achieve that goal. You will get to find out at Michigan whether you are who you think you are, because it won't be for a matter of resources or talent or support. Whatever this head coach is, you will be given everything to go find out what you're capable of as a coach. So don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
What does your gut tell you right now? Last thing I'll ask you, Jake, but is Bryce Underwood on this team come the fall when the season starts?
I would say yes. And I do believe the next head coach is going to be a coach with the track record and history of developing quality quarterbacks. And that is going to be a strong sales pitch to Bryce. That's something Michigan was missing this year. He's clearly talented, but you need a coach that has a track record of taking talent and translating it into production and fundamental improvement.
Jake, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this today.
All right, thank you.
There you go. Jake Butt, the former Michigan tight end, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Clayton Safey is going to join us coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll swing back into the Michigan situation then, but when we come on back, seems like Joe Burrow isn't happy. What does that mean for the future of the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback? We'll get into that next. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And this report is brought to you by Old Trapper. Listen up, because not all beef jerky is the same. Old Trapper is better for you and higher in essential protein than chips, sugar-filled energy bars, or candy. So ask for Old Trapper by name, because no other jerky compares. Old Trapper, what's your beef? The Steelers' T.J. Watt was hospitalized with a lung issue that occurred while getting treatment at the team facility. He began experiencing discomfort and is being evaluated. He is now doubtful for this Monday night. Week 15 begins with a huge game in the NFC South. The Bucs host the Falcons. Tampa Bay opens the week tied with the Panthers for the division lead, with a pair of meetings on the horizon over the final 4 weeks. Tampa Bay has dropped 4 of 5. Head coach Todd Bowles said the short turnaround gives them the opportunity to change their outlook quickly.
Own what we did, and we got to get better at the things we need to get better at. We got to look in the mirror. We understand that as a group. We've been through this before, but it's different every single year, and every time you do it. Nobody likes to lose, and you're coming on a short week. Got a chance to get the bad taste out your mouth.
And they'll get a boost from the return of Mike Evans. He and Jalen McMillan were activated off injured reserve and could play. The Falcons are reduced to playing spoiler. And the Braves have signed free agent reliever Robert Suarez to a 3-year deal. I'm Rich Ecker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. So we'll get back into the whole Sherrone Moore situation coming up at the top of the hour. Clayton Safety does a great job covering the Michigan football team, is going to stop by with us. Just real quickly, Nicole Auerbach, who covers college football for NBC and NBC Sports, Michigan had been alerted prior to Wednesday that Sherrone Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet Warde Manuel fired him alone with no HR rep and no security present, sources told NBC Sports. Warde Manuel, you know, this is going to be someone that I'm going to be fascinated to see if he keeps his job throughout this. Not just because of this, but how sloppy it's been around his athletic department. And you're going to hire that guy, if it is that guy, to hire your next head football coach? You know, this report that comes out, that they were alerted prior to Wednesday, and let's be real, we learned this before in the past. If you try to cover it up, something's going to come on out of this. We're going to find out the information. You could only, like, as long as you delay the truth coming out, you're living on borrowed time. Because eventually the truth is going to come out. So yesterday was the day of reckoning for Sherrone Moore. Right, he gets fired, goes to the staff member's house allegedly, and threatens to kill her and kill himself. They were having an inappropriate relationship, all that stuff. And then it comes out today that Nicole Auerbach, after we know that Sherrone Moore is still in jail, that Michigan was alerted prior to Wednesday that Sherrone Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet Warde Manuel fired him alone with no HR rep and no security present. You know, I understand it's never easy to fire someone, but when something, and I'm not saying they could have saw, right, you fire him, let's say this is the train of events, you fire him, and then the next thing you know, he goes to the girl's house, he threatens to kill himself, threatens to kill her, like, you probably can't see that coming. But if you know that someone's dealing with mental health issues, and I'm not, giving any pass to Sherrone Moore, but to fire him alone when this is a creme de la creme job and a dream job, and having no one there, no security present. Even times where, how many times do you see someone get fired from a company and then someone walks them out of the building? And you go, oh, is that really necessary? But when it comes to something that is this high profile and this serious, and you knew that maybe there was some mental health issues going on and you were alerted about this, Warde Manuel just sits him down and goes, hey, you're going to get fired? All right, go ahead, leave, collect your things and leave. That's it. So, yeah, you would expect him just to go home, but you don't always know that's going to be the case. And then you've already been alerted that he had mental health issues prior to Wednesday. Well, what a disaster. Seriously, what a disaster. All righty, let's transition here real quickly. So Joe Burrow was talking to the media today. Listen to Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow, he just sounds sad, and he sounds like he wants nothing to do with the Cincinnati Bengals organization moving forward.
If I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it. You know, I've been through a lot, and if it's not fun, then what am I doing it for? So that's the mindset I'm trying to bring to the table.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seemed frustrating.
There's just a lot of things going on right now.
Football related, personally?
All the above. Like you said, there's nothing. All we can do is focus week to week and try to win games. I don't think anybody's really thinking about the playoffs right now. That's within reach, but on our fingertips. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing and try to get better.
You know, you look at Joe Burrow, and you start to wonder, is this the next Andrew Luck? That's what you just wonder. That's the immediate. When I hear that, I say to myself, kind of sounds similar to Andrew Luck. Now, Joe Burrow's been more public about it. He's been more outspoken about it. But if you recall, when Andrew Luck retired in that preseason game, he had that press conference that night. And what did Andrew Luck say? He said, I made a promise to myself. And I remember this being part of the story. I made a promise to myself that if I can't practice fully again, you know, I would leave the sport. So everyone has fun in different ways. Everyone gets fulfilled by football in different ways. But Joe Burrow was at the top of the world, right? This unbelievable surprise success story. Before the start of the season, he was like projected as like a 6th-round draft pick. He's going into his second year at LSU. His first year, we're talking more about the running back and Nick Brossette. And then the second year, not only does he go from a 6th or a 7th-round pick, he elevates himself into the first round, into the number 1 overall pick, wins a Heisman Trophy, quarterbacks one of the all-time great college football teams that you're ever going to see, undefeated national champions, number 1 overall pick in Cincinnati, yes, gets hurt early on, but quickly recovers, goes to a Super Bowl, and if the offensive line could have just found a way to block Aaron Donald, easier said than done, for about a quarter more of a second, they have Jamar Chase wide open down that right sideline, they would have won the Super Bowl. You go from that, then to the following season, losing in the AFC Championship game, and then after that, it's just been almost like every other year, big injury after big injury when it comes to Joe Burrow. So if you're Joe Burrow, you're sitting there and you feel like you're in the prime of your career, but mentally, you got to be exhausted because physically, you're taking a pounding. You're getting your ass kicked. You have all different types of injuries, and what gives you the most joy? Being on the football field. Being on the football field. And for most of your time in the NFL, when you're on the football field, it does, early on it felt special. But now when you get on the football field, it's like late in the season. You really have nothing to play for. We could talk yourself into after like one win. Oh, gee golly, right? Here comes the Bengals. They're going to go on this run. But Joe Burrow already won at the highest level he could in college. And now he's trying to win at the highest level in the NFL. And he's probably looking around and look how the last 3 off seasons went. What has dominated the Cincinnati Bengals in the offseason? Contracts. So if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm not having fun right now. And I know people could say, hey, Zach, if you sign a 5-year, $275 million contract, shut up about your fun. Shut your mouth, right? People could say that. But when you've tasted success and now you're in an organization that is cheap, right? You're in an organization where every year it's T. Higgins, it's Jamar Chase, it's Trey Hendrickson, it's yourself, where the contract is the story. And then you get on the field, your line still sucks, you're injured all the time. It's not fun. And even though the Bengals, right under Marvin Lewis, they turned things around, they went to the playoffs all the time, and they never won a playoff game. Zach Taylor comes in, some early struggles, and they get to a Super Bowl, they get to another AFC Championship game. Now, it does feel like you're wasting away for a quarterback when healthy. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And you feel as if you're probably just wasting away and you're in an organization that, let's be real, this is not one of the gold standard organizations. This is not an organization where it's usually all fuzzy and it's rainbows and unicorns and show ponies, right? As Scott Zolak would say, where's the beef? It's not one of those organizations where it's like, oh, wow. This is unbelievable. Usually the Bengals have a perception of being an organization that's one of those organizations where it just seems like it's the pit of misery, right? That's what it seems like with the Bengals. So if I'm Joe Burrow and you hear that at the podium, and if I'm a Bengals fan, what am I expecting Joe Burrow to do? I'm not saying this offseason, but inevitably Joe Burrow has to want to go play somewhere else, right? Joe Burrow is probably saying to himself, it's probably more them than me. And then also, I've had a tough time staying healthy, which also, it's tough to compartmentalize that because you're sitting there and you know what you can be when you're healthy. And when you are healthy, you feel like you're out of it. And then you have a team that is just marinated in off-season charades and off-season jackassery where it's just like, oh, this person's contract, that person's contract. So, yes, Joe Burrow is under contract through the 2029 season. But you look at the dead cap, sure. Next year it falls to $56 million. The year after that, $36 million. So could I see Joe Burrow trying to force himself out of Cincinnati? Yes. And can I see the Bengals allowing it? Absolutely. Can't you see the Bengals saying, oh, we owe him all this money. It's not working out. All right, we'll trade him for a bunch of draft picks. We'll reset. We got close, yet so far he's not going to win a Super Bowl here. And let me move in that other direction. I could see both sides where the Bengals should vehemently oppose it. Right? You have a franchise quarterback. I don't care if he's injured a bunch. You do not want to get rid of this guy. He's the only one that brings you hope to your franchise. I get it. Jamar Chase, a great player. T. Higgins, a great player. Trey Hendrickson, even though he's out for the season, is a great player. But you either have a quarterback or you don't. You have a quarterback. You got to keep that quarterback healthy. You got to keep that quarterback happy. So if I'm the Bengals, I wouldn't want to get rid of Joe Burrow. But if Joe Burrow comes to them, and I don't blame Joe Burrow if he says, hey, I want to get out of here, and I don't want to be a part of this team, I could see the Bengals where if I was running them, I would put up a fight. I could see the Bengals just saying, okay, we'll listen to offers. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We will get back into the Michigan football scandal next. Sherrone Moore, obviously out as the head football coach, had an inappropriate relationship with the staff member and is still in a jail cell after he did go to that staff member's house allegedly yesterday after he was fired and threatened allegedly to kill himself and also maybe the woman that was called, into question here with the inappropriate relationship, as well. Clayton Safety, Michigan reporter, will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. Clearly, we are dealing with the aftermath of the Sherrone Moore situation. As yesterday, he was fired as the head football coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Since then, obviously, we know that Sherrone Moore is in a jail cell. As afterwards, I guess since he got fired, allegedly, he did go over to the staff member's house and I gather threatened to kill himself and maybe also her as well. Clayton Safety does a great job covering the Michigan football team for the Wolverine.com, and he's kind enough to join us right now. Clayton, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for it. How are you?
Hey, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing all right, but yeah, crazy story. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and obviously, like this time of the year, right, you're thinking about next season. You're thinking about how this season ended, why it did go the way that it did. You're just coming off, right, a new class coming in and all that stuff. And then this drops yesterday. And when it dropped at first, I'm like, all right, a year before I thought that they were actually going to fire him just because of poor play. But then you find out that there was a lot more cooking behind the scenes. Just how do you kind of process all that we have found out in the last 24 hours or so-ish?
Yeah, I mean, what a whirlwind to go from, they hired a special teams coordinator on Saturday night. Sherrone Moore held a press conference on Monday to preview the bowl game. He was on a Zoom with Steve Sarkisian on Sunday previewing the Citrus Bowl. And next thing you know, he's in a jail cell. And you hear the 911 dispatch today that was uncovered by TMZ. So, I mean, the turn of events is unbelievable and stunning, and even today it feels even more surreal than it did yesterday. These rumors had been out there for a long time, months, and there was an investigation. I think multiple of them. And my big question, Zach, now is how did they not find something via their multiple investigations when it seems so obvious that something was wrong, something was going on here, that now, according to NBC Sports, that Sherrone Moore had been dealing with mental health issues and acting erratically in recent days. How would you go through an investigation and not uncover this until yesterday when irrefutable evidence, we're told, was handed over to the University of Michigan through the proper channels, and it made it clear that Sherrone Moore had to go? So I think you have to examine the process that Ward Manuel, Michigan's athletic director, went through here, others in the administration, who else knew in the football program, all of this. And you have to do that quickly, Zach, because you need somebody to lead this coaching search. And this is a big coaching search for Michigan because the last 2 years have been a bit of a struggle, of course, missing the playoff. And now you're looking at having to bring someone in to stabilize this thing.
You know, who knows which way that it goes, but when I sit here today, a minute past 4 o'clock on December 11th, I feel like Ward Manuel's going to be out at some point. I don't know if it's by the end of the week. I don't know if it's next week, but I got to think that he's going to be let go as the athletic director of the Michigan Wolverines, right?
I would think that. I mean, if I had to give a 51%, I would imagine. And that shouldn't be all that surprising, I guess, given a scandal that is this big and this stunning. He was the one that was in charge. He hired Sherrone Moore and was very confident about it. And I think probably Michigan didn't do a good enough job vetting Sherrone Moore based on what we had heard before he even came on as the head coach as well, even though, it should have been a pretty easy process vetting a coach that was already in-house here for 6 years prior. So, yes, I think that's very possible. I think as it's been reported today and last night, the regents at the University of Michigan, basically elected politicians, who help run the university, are looking into the process that Ward Manuel took here with this whole investigation and finally determining, I guess, yesterday that he had to fire Sherrone Moore. And so, yes, I think that's very possible. And then you wonder, who do they bring in on an interim basis? Nothing we can report at this time, but hearing some names that would be potentially there. And then, who else is involved in the committee to get a next coach? And does that scare off a potential next coach? Does that, are they still maybe enthralled with the job and want to come? Those are big questions that I think we don't have the answers to right now.
Clayton Safey here with us. Yeah, the math is just not mathing to me right now. And it comes out yesterday, right? I know there's all these rumors and all these things that were out on the internet, but I saw John U. Bacon put on out there that conducted an internal investigation interviewing both Moore and the employee separately, I presume, this summer. Both said no how and no way anything was happening between them, which didn't give much to go on. Her account flipped yesterday morning. I don't know. Just giving my instinct, it kind of is tough for me to believe that she just walked in on Wednesday morning and said, I'm going to change my entire story, and now this is what was happening with Sherrone Moore, and that they didn't have an idea that something was coming around the corner.
And I presume you heard the 911 dispatch as well, where, the dispatcher told the police that she said in her call
for months.
That he's been stalking her for months. So clearly something was bubbling there in terms of, their relationship going south, whatever that relationship was and whatever going south means. And it turned into what could have been something extremely unfortunate, even more so than it already is, yesterday. So thank God that didn't happen. You feel for his family obviously in this situation. But yeah, I mean, it just an absolutely absurd story from that standpoint, and now we'll see what happens to Sherrone Moore. But there's two sides of it. It's him, and then it's also what Michigan is able to do going forward with the football program.
So obviously there's many different layers to this story. There's a Sherrone Moore layer. There's obviously the staff members layer in this. Ward Manuel, like we're talking about, was there a cover up? When was what was what really known? But let's be real. A lot of people, they just tune in. And we've seen this before in sports, scandal or not. People want to go see a winning football team. So you start to think about who could be the next head football coach at Michigan. Let's start, Clayton Safey, with Kalen DeBoer, where everyone's throwing that name all over the place. What do you think the chances are that Kalen DeBoer leaves Tuscaloosa to then go and be the head football coach in Ann Arbor?
Man, I don't know that they're high, but I don't think it's all that low either. I think that there would be a chance, and it's just my opinion at this point. And I saw, different reporters nationally today saying they haven't heard anything. They have no indication that DeBoer would want to leave. And I mean, why would they, right? They have a game next Friday night against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. So he would be a fool to give any indication that he wanted to leave his job, and frankly would be run out of town in Tuscaloosa, if there was any indication. So I don't think that means the door would be completely shut. There are a few things working in Michigan's favor here, and I think it's possibly, the fact that the pressure is so high down there. I mean, you had, the sky was falling when they lost to Florida State, and yeah, people aren't happy around here in Ann Arbor when Michigan loses a game, but it's not quite to that level. They didn't have the success that Alabama did over that span with Nick Saban. So I don't think the fan base has quite as high of expectations. It's a little bit more realistic, although, maybe some people would argue that, I guess, others outside of Ann Arbor. But he has coached in the area before at Eastern Michigan for 3 years as an assistant coach, has family in Ypsilanti in the area, similar to Dusty May, who I know has been on your show. And Dusty coached at Eastern Michigan as well, and that was one of the reasons why he felt comfortable and wanted to come back and knew the scope of Michigan. So that could be something in their favor. We had heard before the national championship game between Michigan and Washington in January of 2024 that there were people at Washington concerned that if Jim Harbaugh went to the NFL, Kalen DeBoer would potentially leave for the Michigan job. He's eyed it for some time. So I don't think it's nothing there. I saw your tweet earlier. I would absolutely start there with Kalen DeBoer. And another thing, Zach, is the timing here. It's not the worst thing in the world that, yes, Michigan missed out on the initial carousel, but now they're kind of the only big job, big program with an opening here. The portal a year ago would be open right now for Michigan players. But now with the new NCAA rule change, it doesn't open up until you hire your next coach. So they get an opportunity to win over the players, the signees that are coming in the recruiting class. So that's an important to note here. They have really until January 2nd. I don't think it'll take that long, but just to give people an idea on timeline, until January 2nd when the portal opens for everybody to get this done. But, clearly the earlier the better. But if, you got to get a good coach either way. So if the timeline doesn't line up immediately for a guy like Kalen DeBoer, you can afford to wait a week, week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and let's say Alabama wins, right? If Alabama beats Oklahoma, I would think that puts the nail in the coffin, for this whole thing. I personally wouldn't leave. I don't think Kalen would then leave. But if they lose, we saw what happened, right, a year ago with Ryan Day. When he lost, his family was thinking about maybe leaving. He was thinking about leaving. Then they won a national championship. So if you lose that game, it's going to be a rough 24 to 48 hours, and where emotions run high, maybe he says, okay, I will go to Ann Arbor. But if they do win the game, then I start to think who could be next, because DeBoer would be a grand slam, obviously, in my opinion. I think Kenny Dillingham would be wonderful. I think the energy, I think what he could do on the offensive side of the ball, if they are able to keep Bryce Underwood, I see Kenny Dillingham, and I know he's an Arizona State guy, and he says he doesn't want to leave. Michigan's still Michigan, even with the ugliness of what has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. This is still a top 5 job in college football.
And Zach, another quick point on DeBoer, right? The freak out in the 24 to 48 hours after they lose, potentially for a second time against Oklahoma. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. Yeah. I think Alabama's probably favored, or maybe not. Maybe it's really close, but that would almost prove the point, right? Of that the pressure cooker that is Alabama. Maybe he's a better fit in the Midwest somewhere else. So I think you're spot on there. And Kenny Dillingham, definitely a name in the mix. I think he would be very interested in this Michigan job. And you said it. He's kind of that rising star. He's got that dog mentality. We've all seen the interviews and the way his team performed last year, nearly knocking off Texas in the college football playoff at a place like Arizona State that isn't a historical power. So I think he could be a fit. I think he would be interested. I think Jed Fish would be interested. The Washington coach, maybe not as exciting for Michigan fans out there, but yeah, I think you do have some pretty quality coaches that are on that list right now. But Dillingham, I think you're right on the right track with that one as well. And I do think he's a good coach. He had great success with his offense at Oregon, and you've seen what he's done in a short amount of time at Arizona State as the head coach.
We had Jake Butt on about 50 minutes ago, and he kind of thinks there's two different sectors here when it comes to can they bring in a Harbaugh guy. He thinks they could bring in Jed Fish because Jed was never really there with any of the scandals. A guy like Jesse Minter, too close to where the fire has been really burning the last few years. Do you think Jesse Minter is a legitimate candidate? Because I don't even know if he'll be interested, because he could be on the verge of getting an NFL job. But do you think Michigan would even be interested in a Jesse Minter?
I think Michigan would be interested. And I think Jesse Minter may have a level of interest. But the timeline there could be tough, given that the Chargers are 9-4 right now. They're in the playoff picture. It's going to be tough in the AFC, and they have a ton of injuries. It's kind of impressive what they've done out there. But that one, right? Do you wait until mid-January? Can you afford to do that? Those sorts of things. So, yeah, I think that there's a chance there. But I would imagine the better chance is some of the guys that are in the college game right now because of the timelines lining up.
Any wild cards here? Is there a name that you thought of maybe in the last day since this news broke that you go, okay, this maybe isn't one that everyone's throwing out there, but this is one that Clayton Sayfie is going to throw out there?
I'm willing to throw it. I mean, why not give John Harbaugh a call? Things aren't going all that well in Baltimore. Who knows? Obviously a long shot there. But, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, I saw Adam Schefter mention him this morning on ESPN. He's kind of similar to Dillingham, although on the defensive side of the ball, what he's done at Vanderbilt is extremely impressive. So a couple names there. I do think that there could be a name that maybe none of us have thought of, including me, that emerges at some point. Sometimes you get surprised. But I think right now the names we've mentioned are kind of the ones that I would imagine are most in the mix right now.
He's Clayton Sayfie. Clayton, I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks so much, man. You're the best.
There you go. Clayton Sayfie joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Make sure you check him out. Obviously, thewolverine.com does an excellent job covering all things Michigan sports. And clearly Michigan in the news with what did transpire yesterday with Sherrone Moore. The 30 for 30 on this one. That's what I keep on going back to. Because it's really, I have to imagine it's going to be called Michigan Man, right? And it's going to start with, the dramatic voiceover and all that, but how they're just getting bludgeoned for years and they can't beat Ohio State, and then the Connor Stallion stuff, and then the Jim Harbaugh, turnaround story, then the exit of Jim Harbaugh as well, the sanctions, the show causes, and then this is Jim Harbaugh's guy in Sherrone Moore. Where the last 2 years, sure, he beats Ohio State, embarrassed them a year ago, but then they got their payback this year, and I guess throughout, arguably the entirety of this season, whether this story was hanging over their heads or not, some people knew. Some people knew. Tim Brando said that he heard rumors about this going back to September. September, for crying out loud. So if we could get an honest 30 for 30 on this, I think it would be great. I do. Remember the whole, I don't think it was a 30 for 30, but remember, I think it was Netflix's the Swamp with the Florida football team. It was fine, but I don't think we got a full, transparent kind of documentary. And you probably never will hear. I would imagine. I don't see Jim Harbaugh really doing much in this. Stallions probably would take the bag of cash, let's just be real. But he's not going to screw over the institution. And who knows, do we hear from Sherrone Moore by the end of the week? I would assume with the legal process and the way that it's playing out that we don't hear from Sherrone Moore. But, did you guys hear Adam Schefter? Let me play you this. And I like Shefty. Shefty was very kind to me when I was coming up in the business. I have no issues with Adam Schefter. But Adam Schefter was on ESPN this morning. He said, don't jump to conclusions about Sherrone Moore yet.
What we haven't heard yet is Sherrone Moore's side of this. And he gets his say into this particular situation as well. And I do know that he felt like people had it in for him for an awful long time there while he was at Michigan. He felt like there were people who were out to get him. So all these things can all be true. It's possible that, yes, Michigan does have evidence that he had an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. And it could be that Sherrone Moore is right, that people had it in for him. But the whole situation itself is just sad and tragic, because now we have a individual who had his professional life, his personal life completely upended.
Here's the thing, though. His personal life got upended because of his actions. Now, what I will say about this, in terms of this whole Adam Schefter report when it comes to Sherrone Moore, if Sherrone Moore, let's just say, right, it was one of those situations where it was a he said, she said, and maybe the girl was lying, right? Who knows why, but just hear me out here. Let's say she was lying and she told the university this and she provided X, Y, and Z and she got him fired. Sherrone Moore has a right to be annoyed if that was the case. But you don't have a right to allegedly go over to her house threatened to kill her and yourself. Like, what are you doing? And Jake Butt said it earlier. This is not the first time that you're going to have a college coach or any coach cheating on their wife, cheating on their family, right? It's not going to be the first time. And if he was winning games, he probably doesn't get fired. But you get fired when you're sleeping with someone that is a staff member of yours. And, right, you see online, like, allegedly gave her like a half her salary in a raise from one year to the next. And then your reaction after you get fired is to go to her house and threaten to kill her? Like, could Sherrone Moore have coached again in college football if he was just sleeping, with the girl called into question? Yeah, he could. He could. He could land on a staff somewhere to continue coaching college football, after you rehab the image and all that. But once you go to her house and once you allegedly threaten to kill her, you're not coming back from that. You're just not. So I don't know really what the side is that Sherrone Moore has to tell. I don't. And Schefter lost me on that one. Maybe he knows something that I don't know. But with the way that we have been presented this story so far, I don't see, I'm going to give you a hot take here. I don't see how Adam Schefter ends up being right, where Sherrone Moore tells us something and it's enlightening and then boom. The next thing you know, we're sitting there saying, wow, Sherrone Moore really got a raw deal. Now, were there mental health problems going on? Yeah, it's a possibility. And maybe that's why he thought people are out to get him. But do I think people were trying to fire Sherrone Moore just for the sake of it? No, it's because you provided them a reason for them to start trying to investigate what the truth is, and then ultimately they made the decision to fire you. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do this QB or that QB next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, we'll do a quick audible here. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. Betting expert Kelly Stewart, also known as Kelly in Vegas, on social media is here on behalf of Splash Sports, a peer-to-peer contest and social gaming platform. Kelly invites you to visit splashsports.com or download the Splash app and enter her college football playoff survivor pool for a chance at $250,000. And Ariel Epstein's favorite vacation partner, Kelly in Vegas, is kind enough to join us right now. Kelly, how are you?
Hey, Zach, I'm doing well. I like the latter better. That's way better than betting expert. If I could just go on vacation with Ariel every day, life would be more fun.
Yeah, you guys really party it up. Like, I know Ariel for probably 15 years now. When she was first trying to get into the business, she sent me a Facebook message, and all the time on Instagram, Twitter, wherever, it seems like you guys go on a new trip each and every month.
We try to enjoy our best lives. And, whenever you have somebody that's not only in the same industry as you, but is very similar to you, it's kind of a special treasure to have in life.
All right, let me ask you this. We'll get into, obviously, some NFL picks coming up in just a bit. But the College Football Playoff Committee, obviously, they unveiled their rankings, their bracket last week on Sunday. Notre Dame out of the College Football Playoff. Alabama, obviously, in along with Miami. How did you just kind of react to that decision by the committee?
Here's the reality. Do I think Alabama deserved to get in? No, but if Notre Dame just won one of those head-to-head games, whether it be A&M or Miami, they would have been in. And I think that's kind of the tough pill to swallow for the Irish. And I do have, some arguments from the Vegas perspective, from a power ratings perspective. Notre Dame was a top 5 team. But when you can't pass the eye test for committee members that don't use math on a regular basis, this is the result you get.
Whenever I watch the NCAA tournament and there's a snub and a team gets in that shouldn't get in, I feel like they always go on a run. Do you anticipate, at least for the first round, Alabama beating Oklahoma, Miami beating A&M? Do you anticipate those things?
No, I think it's going to be an awful first round. I think the chalk is going to come in heavy. And that's where this contest is going to get really interesting for me, because you got to pick 2 picks for the first round. I'm waiting to see who's going to upset. I just don't see it. I don't think Miami should have gotten in. I don't think Alabama should have gotten in. And the game of 5 teams virtually have no shot, even though Ole Miss is playing without a head coach in Lane Kiffin. It's just too big of a point spread to have some major upset brewing. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. And I'm a big underdog bettor. I love upsets. I love the plus money.
But what's been your reaction, by the way, not to get all serious here with Kelly in Vegas, but with everything that transpired with Michigan in the last 24 hours with Sherrone Moore?
Oh, man, I wasn't expecting you to ask me, but I'll be real. You nailed it when I was listening in the wings. Yes, this is an unfortunate event, but had he just said, all right, hand up, I screwed up, like Urban Meyer, like countless other head coaches who have now gone on to receive other head coaching jobs, I think we'd be fine. Some of the other allegations against him are why he probably doesn't have a job and will probably be seeing some jail time.
Tell me about this contest that you got and this whole thing that you guys are doing right now with Splash Sports.
Yeah, Splash is great. And if you guys haven't got a chance to check it out, they're live in 40 states, which is why it makes it so exciting, right? Almost everyone can play. So for me, I love to do all my contests over there. If you guys remember Office Football Pool, Run Your Pool, it's now all on Splash. So no way that I could possibly miss submitting my picks when they're all in one place. But as far as the college football playoff survivor goes, $100 to enter, $250,000 guaranteed. So no matter whether the contest fills or not, you are still playing for $250,000. 2 picks, as I mentioned, for the first round, 2 picks for the quarterfinals. So you got to map out your path and have your national championship. I like to work it backwards personally. Go to splashsports.com/Kelly in Vegas. You can also find us on the homepage on splashsports.com or on the Splash app. This is going to be a really fun contest. Last year was absolutely bananas with some possible upsets there early. A lot of people, though, had Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm hoping we get a fun underdog upset or two, at least in the quarterfinal round.
Well, good luck with it all. Splash Sports, once again, is